Open heart, open mind. Once again, welcome to all. Thank you for tuning in to the Satwa project. So today we are once again going to have a new, meaningful, and very peaceful meditation session. So as usual, before we start our program, we always thanks our sponsor. So let me thanks our SteamYard sponsor and media partner, Durian Asian and Durian FM. And then let me also thanks our brother Sharab, brother Chong, who is managing everything behind the scene. So, brother Chong, would you please like to greet our audience?
Hi everyone, very good evening and welcome to another session with Satva Project. We hope you find the session today useful. So please do like and share so that more people can benefit. And for those who are watching later in YouTube, please also like and subscribe. And now back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, brother Chong. Yeah, and then so today we are going to have a meditation session, which will be led by Venerable Tenzin Dasel. So, we will have this session in three parts. First, we will have a short guidance from Venerable Tenzin Dasel, and then we will meditate together, followed by a Q&A and dedication session. So now I would like to request Brother Sharaf to please introduce to us Venerable Tenzin Dasel.
Hi, namaste to everybody. I'm Sharap, and there's Sabicha Kamle. Okay, let me introduce to you who is Venerable Tenzin Dasel. Suma Tenzin Dasel is the spiritual director of Tashi Gasel Ling. She recently served as assistant to Jesuma Tenzin Pamo and her nunnery, Dogyo Gasel Ling in northern India, and returned to Tashi Gasel Ling in August 2021. Venerable Tenzin Dasel is a graduate in BA from the prestigious Bates College, USA. She has received her degree of Master in Arts from the respected Bangor Theological Seminary, the third oldest seminary in the USA. She has been practicing Dharma, Buddha Dharma, with her root Lama, Khenso Rinpoche Lobsang Setan, since 2002 and was ordained by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama in 2017. Venerable Tenzin Dasel teaches and leads meditation workshops and retreats in the USA and internationally. So let us join our palms together and welcome Suma Tenzin Dasel.
Hello, everybody. So lovely to be with you in this wonderful Sunday, wherever we are on the planet, at whatever time zone. We're here on the Sunday together. And I first would like to thank Sattva and all the people who are involved in coordinating Sattva for their wonderful efforts to keep Dharma alive online in this 21st century way, to provide us all with a chance to connect across geographical distance through the heart to practice Dharma, where really practice is the most important. And so this morning we're here. I'm back in the United States, here in the beautiful shrine room at Tashi Getsa Ling, in a very rural place in Maine. And very happy that I can share with you this morning some practice so that we can find our practice of Dharma as the foundation that really brings us a peaceful mind and compassionate heart. Truly, this is the foundation of where we find our security in any uncertainty of time. And so before we start, I'm going to just open with the little bit of a praise to the Shakyamuni Buddha and to refuge, because really this is the teaching of the Buddha. I'm only sharing with you the teachings I've learned from my teachers behind me, my root Lama, His Holiness Khenso Rinpoche Lobsang Setan, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and also my esteemed and most beloved spiritual friend, Jetsuma Tenzin Palmo, my Dharma sister supreme. And so first in refuge, it sounds like this. I'll say it twice in Tibetan and once in English, just so people can hear what it sounds like when we say our refuge prayer. Sangye chodan soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi dagi jinso kipe sonam ki drola penchir sangye durupar sho Sangye chodan soki chognam la jangchu bardu dagni kyapsu chi dagi jinso kipe sonam ki jola penchir sangye drupar sho. And in English, that sounds like, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha go for refuge until enlightenment. From merit, from giving and the rest, in order to aid all, may I become Buddha. So going for refuge is the first part of finding security in uncertain times. We all know what the word refuge means in English. It means safety. It means shelter. It means a place we seek comfort. And so in order to find our true security at any lifetime, because the reality is, even before the COVID-19 epidemic came and showed us how vulnerable we are as a little blue planet together, that we all are living in uncertainty. Now, there's a very wonderful teaching of profound wisdom that my teacher, Kensor Rinpoche, had really kind of hammered into my mind stream for years and years, starting 20 years ago. I always kept thinking, why does he keep saying it? I get it. But it's kind of like we don't get it. We get it only to the degree that it's comfortable to get, to receive. But the teaching he kept giving is an old one from a Tibetan, from before the Tibetan teachings, from Shantideva, of the reality of life, of the truth of where we find ourselves in any existence, which is impermanence. And so when we feel uncertainty and we're looking for security, what we're really looking for is a promise of permanence. Well, the Buddha said we're not going to be able to find that. And the way Shantideva put it was, what this does is it creates a lot of uncomfort in our mind streams. This fact of changeability, of impermanence, means we're constantly feeling a little on edge, and we're not really knowing where can we find true safety, true security, true belonging, true peace of mind. And Shantideva said, look, in life itself is uncertainty. We do not know how long we have to live a life. We do not know how our death is going to come, and we do not know when our death is going to come, when this life is going to finish and when the next life is going to begin. But we do know for certain that death will come. No one ever escapes this truth of life. Life is a constantly flowing river. And so the uncertainty is there all along, because it really helps us know through humility we're not in control. We can take responsibility for three basic things in life. Our body, we can decide our body, what we want to do with it, what goes into it for food, how we do take care of it with health, do some exercise, be kind to it, be appreciative of our body, give it rest, let it take sleep, be aware of the surroundings we're in so that we don't go into dangerous situations that put our physical body at harm. The next thing we can take responsibility for is our speech. We can be responsible for what comes out of our mouth. Is it kind? Is it pleasant? Are people happy to hear that speech? Or should we just hold noble silence if some anger has risen up, or some fear or some aggression? Maybe we don't want to speak out of kindness. We want to hold that back so that we don't create an unpleasant experience using our speech. We take responsibility. And so then what we can also take control of is our mind. And the mind is the most essential, because generally whatever is happening for our body and what's happening from our speech is really a reflection of what's going on in our mind. And so our mind, we also have to take that responsibility for. We can control what we put into our mind, what we consume in terms of belief systems, in terms of what kinds of thoughts we allow in, what kinds of thoughts we feed and allow to grow. And so in Buddhism, this is very responsible for our Bodhi mind, what's called the mind of enlightenment, the wish to cultivate the mind that goes all the way up to its highest potential, to full awakening. These three things we have to take control of. These are the only things we can control in our whole life. We can take responsibility for our body, our speech, and our mind. Now, knowing that, that's pretty limited because we're just one, and we're alive here in almost 8 billion human beings with countless other kinds of life forms that we can see, maybe even some that we cannot see, some kind of extraterrestrial visitors that might be there that we're not aware of, that might be aware of us. We have to have humility. What we know is very minimal compared to what we don't know. And this often creates a feeling for people of uncertainty and insecurity. Now, what Shanti Deva is getting at is, since life is uncertainty and death is certainty, and we do not know how long we have to live a life, and we do not know how death will come and when death will come, what we can realize is, therefore, there's no problem. That's just the truth. That's the reality we find ourselves in. And what it also gives us a good, clear understanding of is our parameters of what do we want to do with our life. We make choices. Our choices create, there's cause and effect, and action creates an outcome. And so if we take that responsibility ourselves, if we say, that's fine, I'm up for this, I will take responsibility of my body, of my speech, and of my mind, that's not a problem. The problems come when our mind creates resistance to being able to be responsive to ourselves in a moment, to be responsive to an environment that's shifting, and to know when we can need to take action and when we just need to just be with what's happening and allow it to continue without needing to respond or react. So that presence of mind means if there's a problem and a solution, no need to worry. If there's a problem and no solution, no point to worry. So no problem, really no problem. We create problems. We create problems in our minds when we resist what's happening, when we resist the truth of the situation that we're in, that life has a finite experience. Every lifetime is only going to have a limited opportunity to live it to its fullest. Now, the Buddha was saying that to live a lifetime to its fullest is to take great opportunity to explore deeply the true nature of reality. And you don't need to be a Buddhist to do this, by the way. You don't need to be a monastic. You don't need to take vows. But if you do find that you need certainty, if you need more security, you want to cultivate a sense of where can you go for refuge? What gives you that sense of inner certainty that no matter what happens, you're able to feel fine, that your mind, you have a peaceful mind and a compassionate heart. So you're not getting upset with anybody, you're not getting upset with situations, you're not asking others to be responsible for your happiness, you're taking responsibility for your happiness. It's your job. Happiness is an inside job. And you're taking responsibility for your place in the world, your security. You're not pointing the finger outward, blaming others for your own unhappiness. You're not creating excuses and reasons that you're not happy, that life has been so hard to you, so oppressive to you. You're taking those situations as opportunities to rise above, thinking, well, what can I do to create more happiness for myself and others? Yes, there is suffering. There is challenge. There are situations that call for change and dynamic engagement and involvement. Definitely there are. No doubt about that. But we cannot be effective if we have not done that inside work, if we have not looked inwardly to see where is our refuge, where is our deep sense of finding security in uncertainty. And really what COVID touched upon for us was showing us that we're not really in control. We want our life to go a certain way, but we're not able, even in some cities, able to control whether we can go outside of the room that we're living in or the building that we're living in. Or in my case in India, the nunnery for the last 20 months that I was living in, we decided to keep it locked down and closed. And that's wonderful. And it was fantastic. And as I said to the nun Jetsumala Tenzin Pamo, who I was staying with, you know, for years when I was young, I always had this wish to be outside. And I was fortunate to grow up in mountains and nature. And the first place I really felt yearning and called to when the chance showed itself earlier this year in February was to just get a ride up to the mountains and go sit up on top of the mountains and gaze at the Himalayas and the birds circling. You know, and so we have tendencies that We know where our refuge is, but if we have a Dharma practice that shows us how to create refuge within our own minds, within our own speech, within our own bodies, even if it's not what you would call a formal Buddhist Dharma practice, if your body is calm, your speech is kind, and your mind is clear, then you don't have problems in life. You're able to meet whatever situation life will arise and bring to you. And this doesn't depend on our identity as any nationality or any gender or any sexual orientation identity. It just has to do with being a human being. Human beings are really skillful in this way, that we have the opportunity to use our precious human intelligence, to use our most wonderful, kind, loving, kind human heart to reach out to others by reaching in where we find the truth, which is love is the universal refuge. Loving kindness is the universal happiness. Compassion, to want to alleviate suffering, is the universal truth that all living creatures, not only humans, respond to positively, with joy, with feeling like that's good news. I like to hear that. I want to be with that person because they're living that. They're sharing that. They're reaching out and believing and knowing that's the truth of this universal goodness of humanity. Open hearts, open minds, as Sattva says. So just remember this little teaching. If there's a problem and a solution, no need to worry. If there's a problem and no solution, no point to worry. So the problem with the fact that our life will be finite and death will come, that's really not a problem. It's a natural occurrence in life. It's a natural occurrence, the same way taking birth in a body is the beginning of living a life. The natural occurrence of having to let go of one body is also the end point of a natural finishing. And in Buddhism, we believe, and in many traditions, we believe that's not the end. There is rebirth in many ways. Life is a flow, continuous, beginningless, and endless. The difference is if we take birth through purifying our mind stream all the way up to a Buddha nature, which is completely purified, clear light, only kindness, only goodness coming, no contaminated afflictions from the three poisons of ignorance, selfish attachment, desire, and hatred, aversion. We get to choose whether we take those poisons out of our mind streams or not. And so this is important of how we live our lives, why we want to live our life with kindness, with peace, with love, with compassion, and most importantly, with wisdom. And so the wisdom that cherishes others more than oneself is the meditation that we're going to do now. The wisdom cherishing others more than oneself is based on actually a reality that we can observe that helps us see why this makes sense. Often we're cultivated these days through capitalist society that would call us consumers, or through our own family that we've been brought up in that says it's really good to be competitive, you've got to get ahead, you're going to be the most responsible one for doing all of this on your own, even your happiness, which is not true. Our happiness, taking responsibility for our own happiness, is true. We take the responsibility, but our happiness depends on infinite numbers of other beings. This is the wisdom piece. Our happiness depends on our taking responsibility to be happy. This is different than just saying our happiness is ours alone, that we can create the happiness by ourselves. This is not true. So what we want to think about is also finding security and uncertainty by recognizing how interconnected, mind-blowing interconnection, as Lama Yeshe used to say, mind-blowing interconnection. We have no idea how many others are there providing our happiness. So let me give you an example before we do the meditation. The clothes you're wearing right now, you chose those clothes. No one forced me into robes. I wasn't born obviously wasn't born as a Tibetan. You can see that. I wasn't born even into a Buddhist family. But through causes and conditions, through my own investigation, through my own wish, I took monastic vows. That seemed clear to me that this was going to be the highest route to my personal happiness. I made that decision. However, had the Buddha not taught Buddhism, there would have been no vows to be taken. Had the Buddha not found the Dharma, quested for his own way out of suffering, looking deeply at the nature of reality and finding a path, a teaching, a valid teaching, because it brought him all the way up to enlightenment. That's why we know the Buddha is a valid teacher. The path is a valid path because he used kind of scientific investigation, cause and effect. Even though he was born very privileged, as I myself, actually in the United States, was born quite privileged. Both of my parents were teachers. I had a good house. I had great public education. I was able to develop my body through playing sports that people volunteered for to be my coaches, that people built buildings for, that I could go into the gym and play, that someone in a nearby city developed a sport just for women, for basketball was developed just for women by a man in the late 1800s, Dr. James Naismith. He thought, oh, it would be good if women could exercise more. They should also take physical activity. They need some activity that gives them fun to play, that they can do together, and that helps them move. And there's no reason they couldn't be doing some physical activity. And so he developed the sport of basketball, particularly with women in mind. It's a great heritage. I'm very happy to share with you because that's one of my other basketball is one of my other big loves besides Buddhism in life. And so basketball wouldn't have been there for me if Dr. James Naismith hadn't come up with that idea. Buddhism as a path wouldn't have been there for me if Shakyamuni Buddha hadn't, as Siddhartha Gautama, hadn't had the inspiration to look for a path of freedom from suffering, and a true path of final freedom and liberation, complete freedom from suffering. He found that. And so this is, in this way, I depend on these people, depend on these teachers that came before me, depended on my parents to give me good education, to take good care of me, to teach me the importance of living life to its fullest, to be of benefit to others, to strive to become a teacher myself in ways that would bring others happiness towards their goals, towards their aims. Actually, everyone in this world who does anything of benefit can thank a teacher. Because if you hadn't had teachers, you wouldn't have been able to learn to read, to write, to speak, to study, to practice. So you see, this is how we're so interconnected. Our happiness is so built in from the beginning of our families who took care of us, our parents, or whoever nurtured us. Even if it wasn't our birth parents, they helped us by keeping us alive, giving us good food to eat, giving us shelter, giving us clothing. We grow up and we take more responsibility, but we choose our clothing. Who made these clothes for us? We don't even know, but we're happy. We love wearing our clothing. Thank you. Whoever grew the cotton for these robes, whoever dyed it into the red, whoever sewed it together into the Zen, into the Donka, into the Shamtab, thank you. I don't know who you are, but it makes me really, really, really happy to have robes, and even more happy to be able to have monastic vows, which again goes right back to the Buddha. You see, it's not the robes that are that important. It's not the clothing. It's not the appearance that we're taking. It's our vows. What are we taking our vows to and finding our security in? So if we can just take vows as good human beings to cherish others, to see how responsible they give us happiness by doing things we don't even know who's done it for us, but we find happiness. Who made this nice cup? Who grew these beautiful flowers? Who built this beautiful shrine room? Who made these lovely photographs? Who painted the beautiful tanka of Maitreya, who's sitting up there, the future Buddha to come, of universal loving kindness? I don't know, but they make me happy, so I say thank you. So please, in your own surrounding, think that way for yourself. You can sit just where you are right now and look at anything. Who built the computer you're looking at right now, or the phone? Who made the plumbing come into the house that you're sitting in so you have some indoor plumbing? It's just mind-blowing. If we can just dial it down to that level of gratitude and find deep humility, we will find that we have a refuge in that kind of compassion and appreciation for one another. To those that we might label friend, or we might label enemy, we might label stranger. If we could just get rid of those labels altogether and just say thank you to our dear human sisters and brothers who are like us, wanting the happiness, like us, also full of goodness and compassion. Everyone has Buddha nature, has that spark of awareness and consciousness, and just decide to give up our poisons of our ignorance that judges others, that criticizes others, that develops selfishness and greediness about just my happiness, my country, my politic, my ideas. Those days are gone. That's ancient history. No one's looking at that into the 21st century now. We're not looking at nationalism. We're looking at oneness of humanity. We've seen it now from space. We're all living on this one precious little vulnerable blue planet together. And we're here to be as one with each other, not just as human beings, but with all of creatures that are living. They're the same as us. They also want security and uncertainty. Their lives, even for animals, even more so, are uncertain. Have compassion. Something's being lured into a lobster pot here off of Maine. We have a lot of lobster fishing because someone's put some food that lobsters smell and they like it and they go towards the food. They get the food and then they're trapped. They can't come out of that trap until it's pulled up. Someone puts it in the boat. Someone brings it to a store. Someone buys that lobster, and then the next water they get put into is boiling hot water that sears it and takes its life. So we're like that lobster in the sense that we get drawn into things that won't lead us to permanent happiness. Human beings get drawn into food, get drawn into appearances, into music, into new relationships, into new surroundings. And our real happiness, really, we want to cultivate it within. So let's appreciate our responsibility to cultivate that happiness within without needing to grasp at anything outside of us, with taking just what we need from the outside in kind of a middle way, not too little, not too much, knowing that actually our real happiness is very light-hearted, light feeling, like space, beginningless, endless, and that all those that we encounter on our path contribute to our happiness. Because yes, we are wearing clothes. We do need to eat food. We do live inside shelters that were provided for and created through countless others. And that should just create the sense of selfless awareness in our own mind. And in that, we can take true refuge. We can count on each other to do the right thing. We can count on each other to be there together, providing with the intention for each other's happiness, wanting freedom from suffering, and helping each other create that. So let's do a meditation now. I'd like you to just sit comfortably. I'm sitting on the cushion, but you can just sit in a chair regularly. We're going to do a guided meditation now of finding security in uncertainty. And we're going to do this based on compassion, because compassion is the true security in every situation. So if you're in a chair, just sit comfortably, sit upright with a nice posture. And just relax your body. Let's take a few deep breaths. You can close your eyes for this meditation because we're going to do a short visualization, and it's sometimes easier with your eyes closed. In our practice of shamatha, of Tibetan meditation, we usually leave the eyes slightly open. But this is a visualized practice on compassion. And sometimes to visualize, it's more easy to do with the eyes closed. So let's relax our body now and just check in with our body, holding a nice posture, but just taking a few breaths. We'll use the breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Just relaxing, and make the sound ah. That's a sacred sound. Ah is a great sacred sound, and it's a sound of speech, purified speech of empty awareness. And as you breathe out, when you say ah, you just let everything go. Any kind of awareness through the breath that you're holding tightness in the body, any kind of awareness in the mind that your mind is felt a little bit locked in on worries or concerns or not having enough time, just it out. I don't know, I just came up with that one, but it's good. It out. Let it go. Is like emptiness. The sound of the seed syllable in Tibetan Buddhism, stands for emptiness. It's also the seed syllable of speech. And we have good words in English that we like to say, awesome, when something really strikes us as wonderful. So to be full of is to be full of wonder. How does this emptiness dance through us? To be full of wonder. How is awesome awareness able to arise and remain in full positive happiness that wishes as oneself to be happy, wishes that exact same happiness for all others? That's awesome. That awesome awareness that wishes compassion, the freedom from suffering, from all other kinds of difficulties, the same way we ourselves don't want to have even 1 second of difficulty or suffering, that all other beings are the same in that same wish. That's awesome. Let's wish them that compassion, to be free of all suffering. Sorrowless bliss. The bliss without sorrow. The most awesome awareness. If you feel it, you can't really stop smiling. So awesome awareness of never being separated from our true nature. It's in there. You know that it is. You got to bring it out. It's awesome awareness that leaves us in awe, in a state of wonder. In the same way we have it inside of us, all living things have it, whether we can see it or not. If we can't see it and we can't feel it in ourselves, we definitely won't be able to feel it and see it in others. But that's why we start with our own awesomeness, our own Buddha nature, our own awareness. And the fourth is immeasurable, is this sense of equanimity, to be free from all bias, from any obstacle that would ever present any kind of closing down to this awesomeness. Usually this comes from our own attraction towards some that we label as friends, and aversion towards others that we label as enemies. And that's a bias. Even our enemies give us opportunities to practice patience, all the way up to perfection, limitless patience. We need difficult ones at times to help test our resolve. Are we perfectly patient? Can we still see Buddha nature or divine light or the wisdom and glow of universal love in that being who we call our enemy? If we can't, then we have work to do. That's our responsibility, to cultivate our mind so that we have no more enemies, no more friends, no more strangers. We have the oneness of humanity, the oneness of kindness and compassion for all of life. This is the true finding security and uncertainty. So I want you to visualize yourself now on the left side, just you alone, sitting alone, completely isolated, no iPhone, no texting, no computer, no Netflix, no food, no friends, no pets, nothing, just by yourself in a vacuum. If you can imagine that. And on the right side, I want you to visualize the other almost 8 billion, let's just keep it to people right now on the planet. Those other 8 billion people who are just like you, who actually really don't want to be alone in a vacuum. Think of being alone in solitary confinement. That's what we do for people who have break the law and don't act with good moral concern for the happiness of others. If they kill, if they steal, if they engage in harmful, devious activities, lying and cheating, people who break the law have to live solitary. And we consider as humanity that to be the most horrific punishment. Or even worse, sometimes we take their human life, their precious human life from them. No one wants that to happen. Now, recognize the truth that all the other 8 billion human beings are just like us. They don't want that either. And those other 8 billion, nearly 8 billion, are also working for our happiness. Some of them are growing the food that we're eating. Some of them are making the clothes that we're wearing. Some of them are building the houses or the apartments that we're living in, or the yurts, or the cabins, wherever we're living. Even if we're living in a van, someone's built that van that we're living out of. That's amazing. That's wonderful. If the van gets broken, we can't maybe fix it up to a degree, but we can't do every single thing ourselves. We didn't build the tires that need to go for new tires onto the van. Someone else has had to make those. And so we depend on others beyond what we can even know. It brings you to tears to really understand. Really understand how amazing this life is. And how compassion really is the only way forward. If you really feel the love from your parents, the love from your teachers, the love from the things you love, it will bring you to tears of compassion. I promise you. If you do this meditation with humility, in a wide open heart, it will bring you to tears of joy and gratitude for your own precious human life that has brought you into this world, yearning for you to show up with compassion, welcoming you, welcoming all the love you can bring, all the light you can bring, all the joy you can bring. And for those who don't know this, tears of compassion, because they have it too. Their nature is that too, to be deeply interconnected. And they want happiness just as much as we do. They yearn to be free from suffering just as much as we do. They have the same wish never to be separated from sorrowless bliss just as much as we do. And in that way, that equanimity means we're all the same without bias. And it's up to all of us right here and right now to find security and uncertainty and to show up with infinite loving kindness, infinite compassion, infinite equanimity that will leave no one outside of our love. And of course, infinite sorrowless bliss, because that's without the root of it all. So that means we have to take this responsibility now to cultivate infinite wisdom that's capable of meeting it all. I know you've got it in you. How do I know? Because I've got it inside my heart. And I know my teachers have it inside their hearts. And I know many, many wonderful beings have had it already inside of their hearts. And we're here just to discover it in our own way. And I know that you will find it in your own way, to find the security within the uncertainty by living your loving kindness and your compassion with equanimity, never leaving any creature outside of your love and concern, always intending not to harm, to speak with kindness and clarity, or to hold noble silence. To truly take responsibility, to co-create an amazing, harmonious oneness of humanity, where all life is protected by humanity, cherished and treasured and supported with wide open arms, wide open hearts, and wide open minds. So let's draw that meditation to a close now. And just remember that compassion is the solution. Compassion is the foundation of all freedom from suffering. Compassion and wisdom together are like wings of the bird that bring us beyond suffering, the wisdom to love selflessly, with equanimity, free from bias, the deep, true wish for all beings to be free from all suffering. And the wisdom to take responsibility, to only bring goodness in to our body, speech, and mind, so only goodness will come out of our body, speech, and mind. Like this, we can make a world of difference. We can create a whole new world of difference. It's what we're here to do. So keep the little expression, if there's a problem and a solution, no need to worry. If there's a problem and no solution, no point to worry. So no problem. We all have to take the responsibility ourselves. And if others are there creating difficulties through their body, speech, and mind, at least minimally give the wish, may you be happy, may you be free. Don't try to convince anybody. Don't try to change them. Give people the freedom you yourself want to work out your own solution, but take responsibility not to create harm through your body, through your speech, and through your mind, but to find creative solutions to the challenges that are facing this precious planet today. Creative solutions means cooperation, compassion, dialogue, and kindness coming together to really find those solutions that are so needed right now. If we're doing that with our life, we'll feel very secure. There won't be problems for us. We'll feel that at the end of our life, as we get to live a whole long old life, if we're very lucky and fortunate, we can look back on our life and say, I did something good with that one. And I'm sure you all will. And I'm sure you all are right now. If you're joining this little meditation, it's proof that you want to. So I'm so happy to be traveling together with you, my dear sisters and brothers, at this point in time. Who knows how long it will last, but for this point in time, just now, today on a Sunday, October 17th of 2021, how wonderful it is, how wonderful it is, how wonderful it is, and how wonderful you are too. So we can open up some time now. We're going to go a little bit past 9 for some questions. And I don't know if I have answers, but maybe, some of you have answers. But if there are any comments or questions, let's take a few minutes now.
You have messages in Sutva SSS.
Thank you, Suma Tenzin Dasel, for your very great guidance on meditation, your words of wisdom, and your tears of joy. It really moved me into the depth of my heart. Thank you so much for your teaching. Yeah. So now I believe that there's some question from the audience. Yeah, Brother Chang, can you display? Yeah, Samisha, maybe you can read it.
So we have first question from WCW. During this era of global pandemic, we are challenged by loss, separations, and deaths. Beside our diseases and sickness, it seems that the most intense emotion that we have now are fear or worries and sadness. Any suggestion for us to cope and overcome these negative emotions?
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you for that good question. So what this disease has shown us is our vulnerability, is that we are limited in time to live a good human life. And so instead of the fear, instead of contracting from that fear, we could allow instead that to motivate us to recognize the truth of our situation, which is we don't have a life to live forever. We don't have our loved ones with us around us forever. We take things for granted. This could be a big wake up call for us to think, what is the best use of this precious life? What am I here to learn? Maybe you're here to learn, hey, other lifetimes I didn't know. Maybe you died in an accident and didn't know life could end suddenly. The pandemic is showing us through this disease, and it's touched every corner, every round surface of our globe, because we don't really have corners. We have a round surface of unity. It's touched this whole circle of humanity, that everyone is in the same condition, which is we love our loved ones. No one wants to die. No one wants to lose their loved ones. We ourselves don't want to lose our life. But instead of being fearful, why not take that as an opportunity to think, well, then what am I here to do with this precious opportunity? How can I contribute, not towards fear, but towards courage? How can I find the courage of compassion? How can I show up with courage, knowing there are now things that can be done? At first, it was courage to be patient, to stay quiet, not to be in surroundings that potentially could infect others, that we could take courage to learn a new way, to take responsibility for our education, for staying quiet, for doing some practice in meditation. And now when we have opportunity to take courage to get some vaccination, to be able to move more freely again, to still be careful about social distancing, to take courage to choose in our life carefully what is helpful, what is harmful, what's contributing to making that courage grow in the sense of taking that responsibility, becoming interested and invested in helping all humanity or all life forms, not just my precious family or take care of my precious life. Fear, the concern of me alone, fear makes us feel contracted and separated from, isolated. Fear does that. And as we give in to fear, more and more we get smaller and shrink back from others. We shrink back from life. We wither up, and it's almost like encouraging ourselves to die before our time. That's not what we need to do now. We need to have courage that opens the heart and says, yes, I'm going to go one day, but I'm going to go with joy. I'm going to go with loving kindness. I'm going to go with compassion, and also take this opportunity to show up to meet the challenges. In my life, when I was young, HIV/AIDS was not part of our life. And in the 80s, the HIV epidemic came on the scene very quietly at first. It only affected a few different groups of people at the time: homosexuals, Haitians, intravenous drug users called heroin addicts, and hemophiliacs. 4 groups of people that most people didn't belong to, subgroups of society. And within a decade, it was around the whole globe. When I was in college in the 80s, I wrote a thesis about this epidemic saying, right now people are responding through homophobia, through fear of the other, of judging the Haitian, through discrimination of judging the heroin addict, and through ignorance because they don't even know what a hemophiliac is. It's a blood disease that people, very small amount of people get born with, meaning if they don't take an infusion of blood, internally their bodies could bleed and they could die from like a brain aneurysm. No one was thinking about these 4 groups of people in the 80s in particular. And so no one was taking care of them, which seemed tragic to me. I thought, why do we have to belong to one of these groups to care about them? Why? That's not how compassion works. Why do you have to have known someone who's perished from COVID? You don't, to know that people are suffering. What fear does is it pushes us back into separating and isolating us and them, people who wear the mask, people who don't, people who take the vaccine, people who don't. What compassion does is say, look, if we really care about everybody, we do as much as we can that science shows us can help everybody out of the situation. So in the case of HIV/AIDS, it meant people should wear condoms if they're having sexual activity, if they don't want to get the virus. In the case of people with hemophilia, it meant they had the right to know, has this blood treatment that I'm taking in my body been cleansed of HIV before I put it in my body? For people who are in Haiti, they had the right to get humanitarian aid so that they could understand what a virus was and what was happening to them. People using IV drugs had the right to get clean needles or to get help to stop using the needles, to get off of that. And in COVID right now, we have the right to know that there are small things that each of us can do that can make a difference collectively to help each other out of the fear, out of the scaredness, out of the isolation. That starts by not judging. That starts by recognizing no one wants the suffering. And that ends with a universal compassion, oneness of humanity, that we develop that compassion for ourselves and for others equally, that we take our own responsibility if it makes sense to us to take a vaccination, because we've all, at least in my country, we've been vaccinated since we were children. I've traveled on 5 continents in the world. I take vaccines before I go to places where there are dangerous diseases. I'm 55. I have my own experience through science that makes me believe in vaccinations, helping me stay alive and healthy. I'm not forcing that on anybody. Everyone's free to choose what they want to do. But if you choose not to get vaccinated, ask yourself, then why do you show up to the hospital that's carrying science to help you when you develop COVID-19? Why do you go then to the hospital to get help through science that you're rejecting the science that's created the vaccine from? It doesn't make sense. Just ask yourself that. So we need to just look at things very rationally, much more simplistically, cause and effect, and ask ourselves, where do our beliefs come from? Challenge them and find the ones that help us create stronger, more kind, more compassionate, more positive, and life-affirming beliefs towards happiness, towards courage, away from fear and away from separation and isolation.
Venerable Tenzin, spiritual guru and presidential candidate of the USA, Madam Williamson says that our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond our measures, and it is our light, not our darkness, that most frighten us. Do you agree with this statement?
I've read that she said that. Yes, I've read that. No, I think in the West she's right. I think she's accurate about somehow in the West that this has been a mindset that's taken hold. But I don't think it's true for all of humanity. I don't. And why? Because I'm ordained by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and I've lived with beings who don't hold that belief system at all. I've lived with beings very intensively for the last 6 years in spiritual community who know that their true nature is light and who are living into that fuller and fuller all the time. And I know that the number one spiritual leader of the planet right now, who has touched billions of hearts and lives across faith traditions as a simple, good human being, is His Holiness, the incomparable 14th Dalai Lama, born as a farm boy in the midst of northeastern Tibet that no one had ever heard of, and rose to this prominence because he knew who he was from a young age. He knew his light was beyond measure, and he knew his goal was to shine all over the world, and especially from the West, because the darkness of this Western mind and thinking is completely against the true nature of reality. We
Thank
are
you.
Buddha nature. Our light has been covered. Our Buddha nature is like the sun that's shining in everything that has consciousness. It's been covered by habits that have forgotten it, like clouds can cover the sky, like the monsoon sky in India. You never think you'll see the sun again, but guess what? The sun is still there shining. It's still there shining. It never goes out. And so that's for each of us to right now discover, whether you call it your Buddha nature, your universal love, there's nothing to be afraid of. This big light of yours, you got to let it shine. You got to let it shine. You got to let it shine. There's nothing to be afraid of.
Thank you. Thank you to that.
His Holiness has shown that. His Holiness has won the Nobel Prize the Congressional Medal of Honor. He's led not only his people, but the world through these times of challenge and darkness. And he only is calling himself one simple monk, one human brother among almost 8 billion human sisters and brothers. He's done it from that level to show us we can do that too. We must do that too.
Samisha, I think we have next question from the audience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have one question from someone called Joy. So he's asking, you said that we are not actually the one who control our lives, but as modern people, we tend to engage in many control dramas. We like to control the outcomes of our lives. We like to control people, things, and events. We couldn't surrender or trust the process of life. What's your advice on this?
Can you read that last part? I didn't quite catch it. I got it up to we couldn't surrender.
Okay, we couldn't surrender or trust the process of life. Trust the process of life.
Okay, we
So,
couldn't surrender or trust the process of life. I
yeah.
have it. Okay. Well, that is why I try to talk about the difference between taking responsibility and feeling in control. We can take responsibility for our own body, speech, and mind, but honestly, ask yourself around control. Can you even control those three things very well? Can you control knowing everything that's in your mind right now? Can you control everything that comes out of your mouth every time you speak? Can you control your body staying healthy forever as long as you want? And you know the answer is no to all of those. We all do. That's why we have to have the humility to start looking inwardly, to take responsibility, to learn, well, what is it we really can take responsibility for? We can take responsibility for the fact that we accept that we're not really going to be in control. No matter how much we try to build up the outside world and make the better and better, newer home heating environments or bigger cars or solar power, this world by its nature is compounded of elements and things that we're not in control of. We haven't created this planet. We're not going to be able to stop earthquakes. We're not going to be able to stop floods or hurricanes. We might be able to do a better job in how we're living on the planet with more awareness, with more kindness, with more environmental stewardship. Yes, each of us individually can make those choices to help bring things more into kind of a balance. But let's face it, this planet by itself has its own elements. It has its own activities going on. It has its own rhythms and natures. And so we have to also understand that while we're part of that, we're not in control of that. We can only control what we put in to our bodies, into our speech, into our minds, and how then we come out and work in harmony with everything. Show humility, not fear, to what you encounter. Humans think that they can control everything, but it's ending up destroying everything. What we should try to do, learn to accept, to study, to dialogue, to, yes, we can invent, but to let inventions go. And remember, at the end of the day, the real control for our peace of mind and happiness is inside here. It's not outside somewhere there. If we constantly seek our happiness from temporary changing outside conditions, we'll never find peace of mind. That has to come from within. I don't know if I could really get to that full point, but your real trust, your real security has to come through your own awareness, through your own understanding of what it is you can change. How many can you change in the world? Really only one, just this one. But if you change this one well, those vibrations, those examples, living that walk, sometimes talking that talk, or staying in noble silence, that will help others understand that they too can make good change and live harmoniously together. But we shouldn't worry so much about control. We should worry much more about cultivating compassion. That's our true friend that will give us the feeling of security every time. Control makes us grasp. Control makes us try to grasp for something outside of ourselves. Compassion lets us allow what is with security, through our own awareness. And then we make good choices, seeing cause and effect. What can we do to bring a better environment? Internally, first, our body, speech, and mind, clean, clear. Externally, creating nice external living environment with good living companions. Disagreements come, harmonious speech that we can work out, solutions and dialogue with genuine interest, genuine curiosity. What does she have to say about it? What does he might think about it? What does that one feel? Open-heartedness. There's not control there. There's a welcoming.
Yeah.
Thank you for the good answer, Venerable Tenzin. I think there's another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Submisha?
Let us see if we can read.
Yeah. From Ching Wong. Okay, what is the wisdom of uncertainty? How do we live in happily or living joyfully without depending on any outer conditions?
What is the wisdom of uncertainty?
Yeah,
How do we live
and how
joyfully?
and joyfully without depending on any outer conditions.
Well, you know, the wisdom of uncertainty is just live in the moment. That's where life is being lived. Breathing in and breathing out. Are you happy that you have breath? Are you happy you have life? Can you just slow down from all your big plans to just say, wow, how amazing, I'm alive. I've got life. It's fantastic. Good job. I must have done something good in some earlier days because I'm still here. I'm still living. Can you be happy in the breath? Because the breath shows us the uncertainty. We don't know how many more breaths we'll have to take in this life. We don't even know if we'll take the next breath. But you can be happy that you have breath right now. That could be your new favorite thing, better than the next cafe latte, better than the next foodie thing that we're all going on with. Right? Think about your foodie obsessions. Yes, it all looks beautiful and good, and then 2 minutes takes 3 hours to prepare. 2 minutes, it's gone. And a few hours later, what does it look like coming out? Why do we put our happiness in the food? Come on. The food is uncertainty also. The breath is certainty because it's with us all the time. We can go to it, back to it every time. Like I had you do the, we can play with it. We can rejoice in it. And when we're present with our breath, we're present in the moment because we cannot breathe in the past and we cannot breathe in the future, as Jetsumola Tenzin Palmo likes to teach. We can only breathe right now. And often what we do need the most to come back to have a happy life is to just living it where it only can be lived, which is just right now, in this present. And breathing in through the nose, breathing deeply into the body, filling the body up with that breath and letting it out. It helps us feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more present, a little bit more capable of meeting whatever's going on. We can always come back to the breath. We have it with us. And there's joy in that breath because everything that's ever lived has breathed breath. And everything that is still alive is breathing breath. And that connects us to the life. And beyond that, we can find happiness and security in that because without our trees, without our atmosphere, without our environment that we so cherish, we could not even have this breath. These green ones had to create this kind of physical environment. If we enjoy that, finding security and interconnection to this planet and to this universe, we can say thank you to the trees because we're taking the oxygen, they're taking the carbon. It shows that deeper, subtle interconnection level of give and take. We can find security in just being a small, small part of life instead of trying to control it. We can be happy with our little appearance that we're able to enjoy just for this little nanosecond in the greater scheme of endless time of the universe, beginningless and endless. And we can just learn to dance with life through the breath without needing so much of the trappings of the external. And then dancing lightly and gently, we're living very peacefully. We're living very harmoniously. And simple living like that, it does save lives.
And do the RER meditation that you mentioned before, which is a very good technique of meditation. The RER meditation.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
that just came to me. I mean, I did
Yeah,
it. I did it a few weeks ago with the high school students here because they were so serious and so like they just looked in shock. And I said, "Come on, you're teenagers. Where's your teen spirit? I mean, I'm an old lady compared to you, but let's do some ah." And then we were outside, so they started at first. They wouldn't make a sound. They just ah. I said, "I can't hear you." Ah. And at the end, they were all ah, letting it out, and then we were all laughing together, you know, and just joyfully rejoicing, and that's what we need more of. We need to remember we are awesome. We are
yeah.
awesome.
What an awesome moment. Good one. Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you.
So I believe there's the next question from our audience,
Yes.
Samisha. Yeah.
We have one question from someone called Casey. How to experience this mind blowing interconnectedness practically in our daily lives?
Okay, just waking up in the morning. What wakes you up? Do you have an iPhone alarm that wakes you up? Mind-blowing interconnectedness that someone created this iPhone that's made a sound that's woken you up. Maybe that doesn't get it for you. Maybe you don't like your job and you have to go to work. So let's go to the next thing. Your breakfast. Did you choose some nice food that you want to eat for breakfast? No, before that. Your clothing that you put on. Who made your clothing? Why did you choose that clothing that you put on? I assume you like the clothing that you put on because, you know, you didn't have to put it on. And so someone made that not knowing it would make you happy, but, you know, you like the clothing. It keeps you warm or you feel stylish or whatever reason you like the color. People seem to be liking black these days, but I lived in Hawaii for a few years. I enjoy the colors, as you can see. We're into many colors in Tibetan Buddhism. But whatever you put on, you enjoy that. And that's mind-blowing interconnection because someone made those clothes. You are able to choose to wear them. They make you happy. You sit down to eat your breakfast. Who grew the food? You like the taste. Take some deep, maybe in breakfast, eat with your opposite hand so you take a longer time to eat. If you're right-handed, eat with your left hand. If you're equal with both hands, then use chopsticks. If you've used chopsticks, then use your fingers. You have to change it up. This is how people eat all around the world. Forks, fingers, chopsticks. Do something new so that when you're eating, chopsticks, you're really present. Who made the chopsticks? Who made the food? Who grew it? Who brought it for you? Who prepared it for you? Maybe you did yourself. Then you can think, that's wonderful. Whoever brought all this food together from seed through the sun, through the rain, through the earth that grew it. That's all mind-blowing interconnection. Bringing that food. The sunshine is on your plate. The rain is on your plate. The earth is on your plate. The people who farmed it are on your plate. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Just say a moment of thanks between every bite and you'll get the mind-blowing interconnection.
Thank you to that. I think there's the next question, another question from the audience, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
from
I guess
Leila.
Leela, yes, and this is our last question, I guess.
Mm.
So, Leela is asking how to practice the views of Madhyamika and Yogacara school of Buddhist philosophy in our daily lives.
Well, you've got to keep finding the middle paths, right? So you don't want to go to extremes. And some things that COVID has brought up are kind of these extremes of nihilism, like nothing matters, or eternalism. We're going to live forever. And Madhyamika is showing us we need to go into the middle. And Yogacharya also that we need to use the perspective with our awareness to find that middle point of how to balance what is enough, what is not needed. So looking at life being hard, wisdom view. So in Buddhism, the wisdom view is we see the true selfless nature of reality, the total emptiness, shunyata. And we understand then, even our body we got from our parents. It came together through the meeting of a sperm and an egg. We didn't even get this body for ourselves. And so we find that everything we're bringing into our life is dependent on our choices. What are we deciding now we'd like to do? whatever kind of body we're in, it doesn't matter. We can use our mind to continue to make great choices. So our choices continue to influence our happiness. Let's say we have a body that then got injured, like one of my classmates in college at Bates. He's now in a wheelchair, but that did not stop him from living a full human life, developing his mind, his intention to then make the whole campus back in the 80s wheelchair accessible. No one had done that before. He became a great athlete, paraplegic athlete, Olympian. He's developed new forms of wheelchairs for people. He didn't just say, oh, poor me, I'm in a wheelchair. This is who I am. I'm disabled. I'm a crippled. No, he used, I don't know if Eric's even a Buddhist, he might be, but he used this philosophy of Majjhimaka, find a path, find the middle way. Okay, now conditions have changed, but I still can respond. I still have the approach that this isn't going to define my life or who I am. I'm going to be open and I'm going to use these conditions, take them on the path and do something with them that's not only going to improve and change my life and my happiness, but it's going to contribute in this huge way to this whole movement around differently abled beings, being able to ski, being able to play sports, being able to do races, being able to invent. In the past, someone with a disabled body was put away in an institution somewhere. He rejected that. His mind was fine. He was determined to keep moving on. And so Madhyamika and Yogacharya say, always find the middle way. Life will change, but stay away from the 8 worldly concerns. Don't grasp for pleasure. Don't push away from pain. Don't seek always fame, and don't fear infamy. Don't always look for and respond to praise, and don't feel rejected by blame. And don't always think just to get gain and be afraid of loss. These 8 worldly concerns, they keep us swinging. Pleasure and pain, loss and gain, praise and blame, fame and infamy. We're all swinging like a pendulum between them. And the Buddha said, no, stay right down the middle. It's all empty nature. You've got to use wisdom and compassion to find out what helps and what isn't, and then stay away from those extremes. If you live that in your daily life, you'll be very happy.
Thank you so much for the wisdom, wise words, and the compassion displayed by you, Venerable Tenzin Dasel. I think we are at the concluding stage of our session.
Okay.
So, Samisha, maybe.
Thank you to Sattva for inviting and hosting, and I really, really deeply pray that this great effort will go on and touch many, many countless lives and bring aid to many, many countless beings all the way up to enlightenment.
Thank you. Thank you, Tenzin Dasel. And Samisha, would you like to announce the next upcoming event?
Okay, upcoming events. So we are going to have an event called Joyful Living Through Arts, which will be conducted on 24th October. So maybe next Sunday. So please do join us on this event as well. It's all women there, and maybe it's going to be very, very interesting. So mark your calendars and do join us on this event as well. Yes, and then for our 4 great vows, I will invite Brother Sharab to please lead us, and then I will also invite Venerable Tenzin to have a small dedication prayer in Tibetan or whatever she preferred to.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Samisha Kamli. The 4 great vows. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to save them all. Delusions are endless. We vow to cut through them all. The teachings are infinite. We vow to learn them all. The Buddha way is inconceivable. We vow to attain it. May all beings be well, happy, and safe.
Venerable Tenzin Dasel.
Thank you. Jangchup Samcho Purimpoche, Make Panam Ke Gyorchi, Ke Parnyam Par Me Par Yang, Gone Gondu Pelwar Sho. Bodhi mind, precious and sublime, may it arise where it has not arisen, and where it has arisen, may it flourish and grow forevermore. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig remain in life till samsara's end. In particular, I pray for the one who knows all the scriptures through the power of his intelligence, to have a long life through the power and strength of his mind and mastery of life, in order to benefit the teachings and all beings through his good, wholehearted resolve. May all the holy aspirations and intentions of the Most Venerable Jetsama Tenzin Palmo come to swiftly manifest for the benefit of all mother sentient beings in the Dharma. Dedication prayer for all Guru Yoga practices due to the merits of the 3 times created by myself and others and by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. May I and all mother sentient beings and benefactors of Satya, Kashi Getzeling, and all holy Buddhist monasteries, nunneries, and Dharma centers and projects flourish, and the benefits of to all sentient beings be able to meet with the perfectly qualified Mahayana virtuous friends in all our future lives. From our side, may we always see them as enlightened. May we always perform only actions most pleasing to their holy minds, and may we always fulfill their holy wishes immediately. And may we all attain Buddhahood for the benefit of every sentient being.
Thank you very much to your kindness, Venerable Tenzin Dasel. And we hope you'll come back more and more to Sattva channel to guide us and help us on the path to enlightenment.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a lovely
Thank you.
evening.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Okay. See you next time. Thank you, Venerable.